The Curse of Maroon Hill. My grandmother always told me, Joe, never go to Maroon Hill after dark. The duppies are out there, and once they find you, you're never coming back the same. But I never listened. I thought she was just full of old time stories until the night I decided to prove her wrong. Joe should have known better. It was a night like no other. The moon hung low in the sky, swollen and blood red, casting an eerie glow over the Jamaican hills. The air felt thick, heavy, like it was waiting for something to happen. Even the wind didn't blow that night. The village was quiet, too quiet. Everyone was locked up tight in their homes, doors bolted, windows sealed. The elders had warned them. Tonight's not an ordinary night, they said. The duppies are walking. But Joe, young and stubborn, didn't believe in those old stories. He laughed off the warnings, even mocking the village elders. I'm not scared, he boasted to his friends, puffing out his chest. I don't believe in ghosts. That was before. Now, standing at the edge of the dark forest, at the foot of Maroon Hill, something inside him didn't feel right. His friends, who had dared him to walk the path after dark, were long gone, leaving him alone. The road stretched out before him like it disappeared into the night, winding up through trees that blocked out the sky. Joe hesitated. The wind shifted, cold and sharp, biting at his skin. Then it came, the sound. A faint whisper, barely there, but clear enough to chill him to the bone. Joe. He froze. His heart pounded like a drum in his chest. He spun around, looking behind him, but the village was dark and still no one there. Who's there? He called out, his voice shaking just a little. No answer, just eerie silence, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Joe gritted his teeth. He wasn't about to back down from a dare. So, with a deep breath and a firm grip on his machete, Joe started walking up Maroon Hill, step by step, the darkness closing in around him. The haunting begins. The further Joe walked, the more the road seemed unfamiliar, like a place he had never seen before. The trees, tall and twisted, blocked out the moonlight, and the path seemed to stretch on forever. Every step felt heavier than the last. The air around him grew cold, like ice licking on his skin, and he started to wonder if he had made the right choice. Then it happened again, that voice, but this time it wasn't soft and distant. It was loud, like someone was right next to him. Joe, come to me. He stopped dead in his tracks, heart pounding loud in his ears. The moon dipped behind a cloud, plunging everything into darkness. Then footsteps, slow, deliberate, coming closer. Out of the corner of his eyes, he saw something move. A woman stepped out from the trees. Her skin was pale, like she had never seen the sun, and her eyes glowed faintly in the dark. She wore an old white dress, torn and dragging in the dirt as she moved closer to him. Joe, she whispered, her soft voice but sharp like a blade cutting through the night. You owe me debt. Joe stumbled back, raising his machete in front of him as if it could protect him. Who are you? His voice cracked. But deep down, he knew this was no ordinary woman. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Her eyes looked deep into his, like she could see inside his soul. Your family owes me, she said, her voice wrapping around him like mist. And now you must pay. Joe's chest tightened. His grandfather used to tell stories about duppies and deals he made in his youth. He said the duppies granted him wishes, but he never repaid the favor. Nobody believed him until now. Suddenly, she lunged at him, fast and unnatural. Her cold fingers grazed his arm, and Joe jumped back, swinging the machete wildly. But by the time the blade cut through the air, she was gone, like she had never been there. The truth revealed. Joe turned to run, but the path was gone. The road that had been there just a moment ago had vanished. Now, he was standing in the middle of the forest, thick trees blocking every way out. Joe, you can't run from me. The voice echoed all around him, bouncing off the trees, getting louder. He pushed through the bushes, panic rising in his throat. But no matter which direction he turned, the trees seemed to move, blocking his escape. Then he heard it, the whispers, more than one now. Joe, Joe, the debt must be paid. Sweat started to run down his face. As the truth sank in, the woman was a duppy, come to collect on a deal made long before Joe was even born. But the debt had been passed from generation to generation, and now it was Joe's turn to pay. Desperate, he ran harder, stumbled through the dark. The cold wrapped itself around him like a second skin, and the voices chased him, getting closer, louder, until he burst into a clearing, panting like a madman. He stopped, trying to catch his breath, but the moment he looked up, his blood ran cold. She was there, waiting, but this time she wasn't alone. Behind her, figures stepped out from the shadows, with all eyes glowing, all moving toward him, silent as death. The duppies of Maroon Hill had come for him, just like they had come for his grandfather. The deal had to be honored. Please, Joe begged, dropping to his knees. I don't know. But the duppies didn't care. They surrounded him, cold hands gripping his arms, pulling him down into the shadows. Joe screamed, but his voice was swallowed by the night. By morning, the villagers found Joe's machete on the path to Maroon Hill. But Joe? He was gone, claimed by the duppies, just like the elders had said. Now, when the moon is full and the night is still, people say they can hear his voice calling from the hill, begging for help. No one goes near Maroon Hill after dark anymore, because once the duppies claim you, there is no coming back.